Hello and welcome to Week 3, Class 1. This week we will be discussing study skills and time management, including how to make a study plan. The agenda for the rest of this class includes talking about note-taking, common misconceptions about studying, popular study methods, and other tips. Many students think they know how to study, but they don't realize that the same systems you used in the past may not work for college courses. In college, you cover more content in less time. More of your learning time is spent outside of the classroom, and you don't often get a lot of in-class assistance from your instructors unless you request it. The first thing you should know about studying is that it starts in the classroom. How you take notes will determine how you study. When taking notes, do you write everything your instructor says down? Do you type your notes on your computer? Do you focus so much on your notes that you don't really get to listen to the content? Or do you just write everything down with no organization? If you answered yes to any of those, it may be time to reevaluate your note-taking. Here are some tips to help you take better notes in class. First, know what is coming. Look at the syllabus before class starts. Next, write, don't type. You remember things a lot better if you write them out by hand rather than typing them on your computer. Science even agrees. Get organized. Make a clear delineation between lectures. Put the date and topic on the top of each page and make sure everything stays in order. Don't just take notes. Don't just write. Listen. Don't write everything your instructor says. Listen and think about what information is necessary. Use shorthand or initials so you can spend less time writing and more time listening and really taking in what the instructor says. Find a note-taking system that works for you. We're actually getting ready to discuss a few of them. And don't forget to review your notes later. You spent the time making them. Make sure you use them. The first note-taking method we will discuss is the outline method. This is the most common method of note-taking. As a matter of fact, many of you probably do something like this now. Main points are bulleted, flush left, and then sub-bullets are used for details. You can underline, highlight, use numbers, letters, symbols. The possibilities are really endless. Some advantages to the outline method include that your notes are pretty well organized, it records content and relationships, and they're fairly easy to review. Some disadvantages are that it's usually a lot of transcribing or writing, and this doesn't always work for fast-paced lectures. It can be hard to keep up. It's also not easy to go back and edit or add information if your instructor goes back to a topic. Another popular method of note-taking is the Cornell method. With the Cornell method, you divide your notes into 3 distinct sections. The notes area is for any notes you take during class, usually using the outline method or something similar. The cues area is for main points, test questions, and other important points. This is filled out after class using your class notes. The summary area is a sentence or two that summarizes the lecture or the class period, also written after class. The summary is particularly helpful when you're looking for something specific in your notes after class. Some advantages of the Cornell method. It helps you design reviewable notes the first time with no editing later. It encourages organization and reflection. It helps you remember. By reviewing and summarizing your notes, you're helping to commit the information into long-term memory. Some disadvantages, though, is that this method takes time after class to write down the cues and the summaries. You have to really dedicate the time to it and for this to work out well. The mind map method of note-taking is very similar to brainstorming or idea webs that are taught in K-12 classrooms. Your main point or topic goes in the middle, and then you branch off trees for subtopics and details. This very easily shows relationships and hierarchies to the material. Some advantages is that this is great for more visual learners, and it breaks the transcribing habit. You're not going to write long sentences this way. It's easy to add more information later if your instructor circles back to something or you find a connection later on. Some disadvantages, however, is that this can easily distract from the lecture and it can become disorganized and messy if you're not careful. You may have to do a mind map and then go back and do another mind map to organize after the fact. All right, activity time. So one of the ways I just mentioned, taking notes, please take notes in that way the rest of the discussion. Make sure it's a way you've never taken notes before, just to test it out and see how you like it. Now, let's discuss some study skills and tips that will help you study outside of the classroom. There are a lot of misconceptions out there about studying. The first is that simply rereading your textbook or notes is a good way to study. While reviewing your notes and book can be an important part of studying, it's not the only part of studying. You need to test your memory or practice as well. Many students think that if they went to class, they don't need to study. You may have been able to get by without studying in high school, but in college, it's highly unlikely that you'll succeed unless you are actively engaged in learning both inside and outside of the classroom. Many people think that just simply repeating something is the best way to remember that. While repetition can be a helpful tool, try using other senses and methods as well. Use pictures, sounds, etc. to help you learn. Listen to this one and listen well. Cramming the night before a test is not a good way to study. I'll say it again. Cramming the night before a test is not a good way to study. You may be able to ingest and regurgitate the information, but you're not going to learn anything or commit that information to memory. Other than not cramming, though, there's no right or wrong way to study. Keep trying different methods until you find one that works for you. If it doesn't work for you, just try a new method. Like I mentioned before, there's no right or wrong way to study. Everyone has different study preferences. If you like flashcards, then use flashcards. If you learn better by listening to lectures again, then record them, but don't forget to ask permission first from your instructor. Keep in mind that different subjects require different study methods. Would you study for a history and math test in the same way? Probably not. One requires practice while the other requires memorization. Try different things. Try different methods of study and pay attention to the results. College is about learning how to learn just as much as it is about learning the content. You know what they always say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If the way you're studying is working for you, then keep doing it. But keep in mind, if you're not getting the grades you want, you're getting frustrated, or you feel like you're spinning your wheels, don't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. Try a different study method. I've mentioned that you should try different study methods a few times now. So here are some popular study methods that actually work. The first is the SQ3R method. This stands for survey, question, read, recite, and review. First, survey your material. Skim it and take notes on headings, vocabulary, and main points. Then, formulate questions like, what is the topic? Or, what do I already know about this chapter? Next, read the whole chapter, article, or whatever it is that you're reading, and annotate. Take notes in the margins or on a separate sheet of paper. Annotating is incredibly important and can help you navigate the text later. Then, recite. Summarize the piece that you just read in your own words. Lastly, review. Quiz yourself and reread what you didn't know. The next method is pretty simple. Retrieval practice. Take practice tests, do practice problems, quiz yourself, or even better yet, have someone else quiz you. If you test yourself on your retrieval, you can figure out what you know and what you still need to study pretty easily. Next, we have spaced practice. This is a method of studying that takes place over a long period of time to allow your mind to make connections. For example, on day 1, you learn the content in class. Day 2 and 3, you review the content. Use your notes, text, whatever you have available. Then, do that again after 1 week. Then do it again after 2 weeks. Spaced practice helps you take content from short-term memory and move it to long-term memory, making you more likely to not just remember it for the test, but possibly remember it for the rest of your life. Then we have the Feynman technique. The premise of the Feynman technique is simple. If you can't explain something in your own words, then you don't really understand it. Start by writing your subject or topic out with the textbook definition. Then explain it in your own words, like you're teaching it to someone else without using your text or other sources. Then review it and identify inaccuracies. Keep at it until you get it right and you could explain the concept to another person without help. Once you can teach it, then you've really mastered it. Next, we have the Leitner system, which is a system that uses flashcards. For this, you need 5 boxes labeled 1 through 5. You make flashcards with your content that you need to memorize and put them all in one box. Review the flashcards, and every time you get one right, move it down a box. If you get it wrong, keep it in the first box. Review the things in box 1 every day until the box is empty. Review the cards in box 2 every other day. When you get those right, they move to box 3. If you get it wrong, it stays in box 2, and so on. This is another long-term study method, but it works very well for classes with cumulative midterms and finals that require a lot of memorization, like anatomy. So for box 1, you review every day. Box 2 is every other day. Box 3 is every 4 days. Box 4 is every 9 days. And box 5 is every 14 days. Last, we have active recall. This is another simple method. Don't just reread. Close the book and recite what you know. Then go back to your book and figure out what you're missing and study those things. Then do it over again until you know everything in that section or chapter. This works best with practice quizzes and practice tests as well as study guides. Here are a few other helpful tips that can fuel your brain for studying. First, listen to music. Listening to music, particularly classical, movie scores, or other music without words, is very helpful for your brain activity. Next, get some exercise. Before, during, or after studying, it doesn't really matter, but physical exertion helps you retain information better. Don't focus on one subject for too long. If you only focus on one subject for a long stretch of time, you're likely to forget more than you remember. Switch up your subjects to engage your brain. Lastly, remember to take breaks. After about 2 hours, your brain needs a break and you're no longer effective. Get up, walk around, exercise, get a snack, take a nap. Just step away from your study space and let your mind rest for a few minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time, just 5-10 minutes, and then you can get back to it. That's it for study skills. In the next presentation, we'll be discussing time management and how to create a study plan. Have a great day.